Joaquin Buckley versus Alessio Di Chirico takes place this weekend on the main card of UFC Fight Night Fight Island 7, Holloway versus Kattar, and I can't wait for this middleweight matchup. You've got Joaquin Buckley, otherwise known as Kevin Holland's son, which is what the MMA community have taken to calling him recently, and I think it speaks volumes on the MMA community, the fact that he can deliver us the greatest KO we've ever seen in our lives, and we still refer to him as Kevin Holland's son, because of course, he lost his debut to Kevin Holland, but since then he's been doing really good, bounced back against Impa Kasanganay, who in my opinion is a more dangerous opponent than Alessio Di Chirico. I wished he would have gotten a bit more of a jump up in competition, but they went with Alessio Di Chirico because I don't know why. Maybe they want Buckley to win, and Alessio's on a 3-fight losing streak and basically got KO'd at the end of his last bout with Zach Cummings. For the first time in his career, he's been dropped and hurt badly. He's looked good until then. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, and now it's time for him to take on Joaquin Buckley. Not Zach Cummings versus Joaquin Buckley, but no, Alessio Di Chirico versus Joaquin Buckley, of course. I feel like it's very clear what the UFC is doing. They're trying to put some stock behind Buckley's name, get him a big win on the main card, and then I think after this one, we'll start moving on to those better names in the division, which we're going to talk about afterwards. If Joaquin Buckley is successful, which I think he will be, in all honesty. Joaquin Buckley had a great fight with Kevin Holland, man. Way better than Jacare. Showed up on short notice. Had a bit of a scrap with him. I know Kevin Holland eventually finished him, but Buckley was landing good shots in that bout as well. But Kevin Holland is just as good as he is. And then Buckley defeated Impa Kasanganay. We all know how. Then Jordan Wright as well. Jordan Wright is an undefeated guy at the time, 11-0, but he'd already lost to Anthony Hernandez. I know he got overturned to a no contest, but he smoked weed. He didn't take roids. You know what I'm saying? Like, He didn't take roids, he smoked weed and still whooped up on Jordan Wright really badly. And other than that, Jordan Wright is basically the white KB Buller, the way his record was so padded. I've never seen a padded record the likes of it since. Not going to bring it up right now, you know who. But still, Jordan Wright was not a good contest, and Buckley made him look like not really competitive, I'll be honest with you guys. Like, if Jordan Wright went out there and won a round against Buckley, it would be a massive red flag. But Buckley went out there, dominated the first round, won the second round as well. Don't get me wrong, Jordan Wright showed how tough he was, but Buckley was just all over him. Eventually finished him in the second round. Now he's taking on Alessio Di Chirico, who last lost to Zach Cummings. But Alessio Di Chirico, as much as I think Impa Kasanganay could tussle with him and maybe give him a good whooping, because I think Impa would beat Alessio Di Chirico right now if that was the matchup that was made. But Alessio Di Chirico is a tough guy. I know he fought an earlier version of Kevin Holland, but Alessio Di Chirico is never dominated, which is what makes this fight somewhat interesting, regardless of if it's the jump up that we wanted Joaquin Buckley to have, because it's all going to be about if Joaquin Buckley can win, which I think he can. I think he will beat Alessio Di Chirico. I think the UFC knows exactly what they're doing. This is a great style matchup for him. If I'm going to beat Joaquin Buckley, I need a guy with big power. Alessio hasn't really shown that in his career so far. He has one KO in his career, and that's by a knee to the face. Anyone knees anyone in the face, it seems to me that they go out cold immediately afterwards. But Alessio Di Chirico, not really too much KO power in his career. He's got big power, but he hasn't seemed to shown finishing power. Like, he's got big power to make it look like Makhmudmuradov is being flung against the cage, but he doesn't really seem to shut too many people off with it. So if I'm going to beat Joaquin Buckley, I need a guy who's going to have big consequences to try and catch Joaquin on that chin that he's already been KO'd on. Or you're going to need a guy who sticks on the outside, fires shots down the center, everything very technical, but they've gone with Alessio Di Chirico, a bit of a scrapper, and in my opinion, Alessio Di Chirico's main characteristic in his career, as I said, is making fights look close, because if you go through Alessio Di Chirico's career, he's never been whooped. In his entire career, the Zach Cummings fight, I think he won the first round, lost the second, lost the third, of course, with the knockdown at the end. Close fight, though, but it's Zach Cummings at the same time. Also, had a close fight with Makhmudmuradov that no one really talks about. I thought Makhmudmuradov won that fight quite clearly, rounds 1 and 2, but lost round 3 to Alessio Di Chirico, which is very interesting because Joaquin Buckley is a very fast-twitch, muscle-based fighter, and if there was a way to beat him also, it would be a guy who can really put the pace on him. I think, if, in all honesty, a bigger James Krause would be a great guy to potentially take on. I think what James Krause is a little bit too small at middleweight, but a welterweight, of course, it would be interesting because Buckley said he can go down there, but he wants to focus on middleweight for now. I think a bigger guy like James Krause, who has a good chin, good technical stand-up, and also can push a pace in those later rounds, is going to be the guy to beat Buckley. Alessio Di Chirico does some of that, but he doesn't really fight at a tremendous pace, and Joaquin Buckley really pushes a pace in his bouts, a really high output rate, and Alessio Di Chirico's ones seem to be be a little bit slower, so I don't think he has the cardio necessary if he does survive the first 2 rounds to make Joaquin Buckley pay in the third. But he did have a close fight with Makhmudmuradov. And he did have a close fight also with Kevin Holland and took him to a decision and didn't get KO'd like Joaquin Buckley did. We've got to be honest here. I mean, Alessio Di Chirico is a talented guy. He's never really stood out too much with his wins. He has 3 wins in the UFC, 5 losses, 3 losses in a row now, 1 by KO against Olawale Bangbos. It was really a nothing kind of fight. Nothing happened in the first round almost whatsoever. Then nothing was happening in the second, and eventually Olawale got a little bit restless, went for the big exchange, and Alessio landed the knee up the middle, but against Julian Marquez, a split decision. I thought he won the fight, but still, Alessio makes things close against a level of competition that I think Buckley could beat. Holland has improved a lot since his Alessio Di Chirico bout. So has Makhmudmuradov, and Muradov won it quite clearly rounds 1 and 2, and I think he knew that going into the 3rd round as well, which is sort of the reason why Alessio Di Chirico won that 3rd round. However, I just think Buckley's going to go out there and beat Alessio Di Chirico, because Di Chirico does what Buckley does without any of the rewards that Buckley gets from his own talent and his athleticism both combined. Okay? I know we can just say that Buckley's just a freak athlete and he's got crazy genetics and he's got crazy fast twitch muscle, but he's also got pretty good technique with the hands as well. Gets in, gets out, closes the distance well against taller guys, which Alessio Di Chirico is. Plus Buckley has a reach advantage as well here as the shorter opponent. That's going to help him out in his attempts to even, I don't even think he might not even try and get on the inside, but we know he will, because he is that kind of fighter. He'll get in there, stick his chin down, start throwing hands, and I think Alessio Di Chirico will entertain that too much and eventually get caught on the chin. I don't know if he'll get TKO'd. I think he will. And I know I just said I don't know, and then I said I think he will immediately afterwards, which means I actually do know and somewhat understand what's going to happen here. I think Joaquin Buckley will get a TKO finish, mainly because Alessio Di Chirico did suffer a really bad knockdown in his last bout, and it wasn't that long ago in August. That's what, 5 months ago overall? 4 and a bit months ago at the end of August 29th against Zach Cummings. He got KO'd badly. That's like an OSP Dominic Reyes situation, except OSP didn't get back up straight away. It was almost worse that Alessio Di Chirico did get back up at the end of the round, because he immediately stumbled back to the ground. He had no legs under him whatsoever. He got really badly concussed. I think this is a bit of a quick turnaround, and I think the only reason he's even taken this bout is because he knows his career is on the line, and this is his only chance to even stay in the UFC with all the cuts coming up. I don't think they're going to be sticking around, keeping a hold of Alessio Di Chirico, 31 years of age, lost to Cummings, lost to Muradov, lost to Holland, 3 in a row. I think Di Chirico would be fired if he didn't take this bout. So I think it's a bad turnaround to have. I think Buckley's got a lot of momentum right now, and good momentum as well, with 2 quick finishes, or not quick, but reasonably quick finishes, where he didn't take a lot of damage. I know he took Impa Kasanganay to the 2nd round, but Impa didn't really damage him too much in that bout, even though it was quite competitive and close. Buckley was getting the better of that exchange. We do see some signs of Buckley slowing down, but I feel like we see signs of everyone slowing down. But I just feel like it's what we pay attention to with Buckley, because we're looking for something to pick apart, because he's the next big product that UFC is trying to push. I think he will get it done against Alessio Di Chirico by TKO. I think from now watching enough Buckley fights, he took Jordan Wright to the 2nd round as well. It seems that he is a bit of a 2nd round finisher. You know what I mean? Like, he settles. He doesn't go for broke in the 1st round, which is actually something that I liked in the Jordan Wright fight. I think he could have emptied out the gas tank and really put a statement on Jordan Wright in that 1st round, but he stayed patient. Jordan Wright was throwing some stuff back and was tough as well, could take a few shots. So Buckley took his time, stayed patient, stayed measured, almost finished him in the 1st, but didn't empty out the gas tank or go crazy. Then took it into the 2nd and really started to work down Jordan Wright. So I think he loosens the chin of Alessio Di Chirico in the 1st round and finishes him in the 2nd. But there's a good chance that Alessio Di Chirico survives this, and I think that's what's going to be the takeaway from this fight. I think Joaquin Buckley's going to win. I really do. But it's going to be, how does he win? And how do we then look at him moving on in the middleweight division? Because if he goes out there and loses a couple of rounds, or 1 round, sorry, because he can't lose a couple of rounds and still win with the system that we have, unless he gets a 10-7 or something, which is near impossible to get unless you're Davison versus Benavidez in a rematch. I still haven't forgotten those harrowing images. They pop into my head every single night as I sleep. Joseph Benavidez, his poor face. But, you know, 10-7 rounds are real hard to come by. in all honesty. Okay, so I feel like Buckley's got to go out there, but if he does lose a round, or he does slow down in the third, and Alessio Di Chirico starts mounting a bit of a comeback and looks like he's going to really take away the win from Buckley in the third round, but Buckley barely survives and looks really gassed out in the third, we're going to learn a lot from this. I just wish he would have been tested against a guy like Andrew Sanchez, or even Zach Cummings, who beat Alessio Di Chirico. He's an older guy as well, but I feel like they kind of realised with Zach Cummings, in fairness to Alessio Di Chirico as well, that he's still got it. Zach Cummings is an older guy, been around for a while, had his losses in the UFC, but he always makes fights close, and he wins a lot of them as well. He beat Trevor Smith, beat Trevin Giles, beat Alessio Di Chirico in his last bout as well. He's beat a lot of guys. I mean, he's 3-1 in his last 4, so I think Zach Cummings might be a good matchup to make if Buckley does in fact win this bout, because I don't think they're going to jump him straight into the rankings with a win here. I think they're just trying to keep him busy, keep him relevant, be on ABC with a bunch of new viewers, because I'll tell you this, they're really trying to push Buckley. They're also trying to push Holland. I'd love to see a rematch with full camps for both of them eventually one day. I still think Holland would win. As I said, I think a good way to beat Buckley will be if you are the more technical guy, everything straight down the pipe, beat his looping punches with the straight shots. But Di Chirico is kind of Buckley without the power, essentially. He's just Buckley without the power and maybe a little bit less aggressive and maybe a little bit less output as well, because he's a bit older and he's not quite the physical specimen that Buckley is anyway. I think I'm going to go with Joaquin Buckley against Alessio Di Chirico. If he does win this one, I'm looking at names like Muradov Sanchez winner. Like, let's start squaring up some of these guys. You know, we've got to really push some challenges on our contenders. Maybe the winner of Dricus Du Plessis versus his next opponent, which I can't... Trevin Giles. That's a fight that's happening soon. That'll be a good one to watch as well. Zach Cummings, as I said before, is a guy coming off a win that's ranked above all of those names at 23. Also an older guy that you'd want to get rid of. And also, if Joaquin Buckley goes out there and beats Alessio Di Chirico more dominantly than Zach Cummings did, which was by close decision, you've got an argument that he'd then be very likely to go on and beat Zach Cummings, which is also what the UFC would want. But I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Buckley gets the job done by TKO in the second round, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to a decision, because Di Chirico is very, very tough. And I respect Alessio Di Chirico. He's pretty good. He's very good. He was undefeated coming to the UFC. Makes a close fight out of everything, and hopefully he makes this one competitive as well, so we can see a little bit more out of Buckley. I'm going to be paying attention, but I think Buckley will... The UFC knows why they did this, and it's for Buckley to win and look really good on ABC in front of all the new viewers. You know? I think he wins. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Joaquin Buckley by second round. TKO. Thank you. Goodbye.